Flight Risk is an action thriller about a hitman being sent to attack a witness mid-flight. It's kind of tense, but it's honestly a second-rate movie. Let's talk about it. In this movie, we follow U.S. Marshal Madeline Harris. She's responsible for transferring a government witness named Winston to Seattle to testify against a notorious crime boss that he once worked as an accountant for. Their flight is unfortunately compromised, with the pilot being a sadistic killer, played by Mark Wahlberg, who was sent to take them out to prevent them from jailing his boss. So starting off with the good, this movie uses that whole trope of the powerful villain having hands and lots of pockets. Once everything goes south, Madeline needs to figure out how to land the plane, so she starts contacting people and they start questioning how exactly the flight was compromised. This was easily the most interesting part of the movie. This was where all of the plot revelations were and what made it more than just an action comedy. There are also some interesting layers to Madeline's dynamic with Winston. They aren't immediately obvious, but the trust issues that she has are not completely one-dimensional. She's got some character depth. At its core, it's a story about redemption, so there is something to latch onto and not just action. The movie is otherwise mostly B-grade action and cheesy humor. Most of the humor comes from Winston, played by Topher Grace. The jokes were not dumb all the time. Some of them are fine, but then there's the ones that are really cringy or just really generic. Like Winston is all shackled up and he's just like, I have to use the bathroom. You know, just generic humor that stopped being funny 2 generations ago. That's the bulk of the jokes that this movie has to offer. And then there's this other character that they have on the phone. I don't want to say too much just to avoid spoilers, but this character was so painfully cringy, just very bad humor, and their dynamic that they had with the protagonist felt very out of place and honestly kind of just old-fashioned. So Mark Wahlberg is the face of this movie. He is the sole character on the poster, probably because he's the biggest star. I love seeing actors play against type, and I think that Mark Wahlberg has business playing more characters like this who are intimidating and unhinged. But man, was this character just lame. He is just a madman with an unquenchable thirst for committing heinous and perverted crimes, and that's it. It was honestly just kind of exhausting how raunchy he was. To clarify, I don't have any issues with a villain being sexual as a means of being unsettling. By no means am I expressing discomfort in any of that. It's just that that was his only characteristic. Like, he was just a one-trick pony. He would just be like, oh, I'm gonna commit this heinous sex crime. And now I wanna do this pervy thing. And now guess what I wanna do to you? Less is more is all that I'm saying. He just wasn't very interesting of a villain, and honestly, the bulk of the flight wasn't really interesting either. Like I said, Madeline unveiling how everything happened was the bulk of what made the movie interesting, and the majority of the rest of the flight was just a sequence of events and not really story. Like right around the end, there's another moment of, oh, but now there's this obstacle that you have to overcome to land safely, and then that obstacle amounted to absolutely nothing. It's because the movie just doesn't have enough things going on that it's using things like that to act as filler to make it a feature-length film. It's only 90 minutes, but even that short amount of time doesn't feel dense. And then there's Michelle Dockery, who I don't want to say is a bad actor, but I also wouldn't call her a good actor. She's just very plain. It's the type of performance that works for a 2-dimensional supporting character, but not really for a lead. Overall, this movie is just poorly directed. I noticed a mentionable amount of continuity errors. Granted, most of them are very little, but it was really just the amount of them that jarred me. Lots of cuts back and forth where characters are sitting in different positions. At one point, it was jumping back and forth a lot between Madeline having an acne bandage on her chin and then it not being there. And the action sequences were kind of mid. Some of them are fine. There was this one near the end that was just absolutely horrible. Someone was held at gunpoint and improvises a solution to disarm the threat, so they do this totally sweet sequence where they barrel roll around the plane. The way the shots were stitched together was hilariously bad. That on top of the fact that this character was able to do all this while held at gunpoint. Like the person holding the gun might as well have been frozen in time. It's just a poorly crafted film, courtesy of Mel Gibson, who earns this reputation when he makes movies like this.
Somebody who doesn't fit in Imagination Land. Oh!
Sorry, I couldn't not throw that clip in there. So this movie was just lacking. I would not recommend seeing it unless you really want to see Mark Wahlberg play a freak of nature. I just want to say sorry for these last couple uploads coming pretty late and far apart. Still kind of picking myself back up after the holidays, but hopefully I will see you later this week with a review of Companion.